All right. Welcome, guys, to Members Talk Live. We're here doing the show live on the channel. We got T from Have You Seen That with T right over there. I should angle my hands the right way. What's going on, man?
Hey man, everything's going good. Everything's going good. I'm bogged down with schoolwork, but I'm here.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here, man. Thank you so much
Of
for
course.
giving time because I like we were talking before we went live. You're really busy. You got assignments, you got things going on. So I recognize like how much of an honor it is to have just like the hour of your time that we have today. So I appreciate you being here, dude, and thank you for giving your time.
For sure, man. I value being on this platform, so I definitely make time for this.
Absolutely. And yeah, so today, guys, we got a full like slate of topics. We got Gladiator 2 first reactions. We actually have people who have seen the movie. I think it premiered at New York City Comic Con last night. So we're going to be talking about some of the first reactions, going over them. We've got Gollum updates on that Hunt for Gollum movie that they're doing from Lord of the Rings over at Warner Brothers. What else do we have? We've got the Karate Kid poster officially dropped and Dune 3. We have a little bit of an update for what Denis Villeneuve will be doing with that. But before we jump into our first topic, and guys, you can put in comments and questions all throughout the stream, and we will answer as many of them as we can at the appropriate times. But before we get started, T, do you want to tell the people where they can find you?
Well, you can find me at the Have You Seen That with T YouTube channel. There it is right there.
Right
I haven't
there.
put out any videos in a while. I've been busy with schoolwork, but I do plan on going to see Smile 2. So I'm probably going to do a ride home review from Smile 2. I'm really excited about Smile 2. So I have to go check that out this weekend.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm gonna watch the first Smile. I think later today, either later today or tomorrow. I'm gonna be watching the first Smile. I'm thinking of doing a reaction to it and putting it up on the channel because horror movie reactions for me are like the best ones because I'm just such a freaky scaredy cat. And then if I like Smile, I might go catch Smile 2 this weekend because I like Naomi Scott. Like, and I hear her
Yeah,
performance
she's
in it is
fantastic.
fantastic, and I'm hearing really good things about Smile 2. I actually haven't heard much. I know that Smile, the first one, was appreciated when it came out. I actually haven't heard many people talking about it. When did that come out? Was that 2 years ago? Was that?
I think it was about 2 years ago. It came
Yeah,
out early in the year, and I remember not going to see it in the theater because I thought it was going to be another schlocky horror movie, kind
right.
of along the side lines of Imaginary or like those type of horror movies that are not my bag. And I watched it on Paramount Plus one night and just loved it. It was a pleasant surprise. That's what I would say. It was tense. It had jump scares, but it was how jump scares kinda hit the same beat? Like, every movie, you could tell the music
Yeah,
kinda picks
it
up.
builds
This
up and then it
one
hits that moment where it kind of breaks, and then you get that
yes.
jump. Yeah,
This one was unsettling because it would just come out of no it really would come out of nowhere, like, there's an infamous scene, in the trailer where a person walks up to the car and they do this thing, like, I won't spoil any of it for you, but it was like if you know it's coming, you expect it to come, but it came so out of like it would everything just kind of hit a different beat, which to me
right.
makes a better horror movie when it's not
Yeah,
when you don't expect it. So
a
and
movie
the
that I
ending was
thought
pretty good.
another movie that I thought did that really well was It Follows. I don't know if you ever seen It Follows.
I
It's
did.
a
Not a
yeah,
fan.
not a
Yeah,
fan of that one.
I don't know why I think everybody hyped it up so much. I thought I
That's
was going to be
fair.
watching the greatest thing. It becomes bigger than it should be. It should just I should have just went into it thinking, all right, it's going to be a solid, whatever. But everybody hype, oh, it follows is the greatest modern horror we've ever seen, and it's like, no, it was
Yeah.
good. It wasn't great. Like Hereditary was one that lived up to expectations. Like people hyped that up to the
Yeah,
point where,
Hereditary, that's another really good one that
yeah,
I personally could never watch that movie again, but as far as, like, horror execution, that one was really good. That one did a good job as well. We've got, our buddy Ace in the chat saying he can't pop on today, he's gotta save his voice because he had a crazy stream last night. But what's going on, Ace? Thanks for joining. And, Collective Movie Man, also, both of these guys, by the way, beloved channel members, thanks for being here, guys. Collective Movie Man saying, "Hey, have you seen that with T?"
hey, how's
Um
it going, man? I'm sorry, Ace. I missed the stream last night. I was doing statistics all night, and I made my wife's life miserable. miserable because I was miserable, and my brain is fried. But I kept wanting to pop on, but if I did, I would not have focused on the numbers in front of me.
That's fair. Fair enough, man. All right. Let's jump into the first topic we got here, T, and that is going to be the Gladiator 2 news, because we've been talking about it for a while. That Gladiator 2, Ridley Scott's coming off from Napoleon to go back to probably one of, if not his most popular movies, Gladiator from 2000. What was that? 2001, whenever that was. All these years later, he's doing a sequel, and I've been pretty public on the channel. I'm cautiously optimistic, but my experience with Napoleon has really affected my anticipation for Gladiator 2. Because Ridley Scott, he has hits and misses. I thought The Martian from a couple years back was
Okay.
fantastic. I liked The Last Duel. I think he did that in 2019 or whatever that was.
I think
Or
that was
2000.
it was during the pandemic. It was
Was that pandemic times?
yeah, it was.
Those
Yeah,
pandemic
it
times,
was.
man, they all blend together. But yeah, The Last Duel I actually really enjoyed. I thought that was underrated the year it came out. And that led, of course, to Napoleon, which I did not like very much at all. So now we've gotten our first reactions to Gladiator 2. It premiered at New York City Comic Con, I believe, last night. Now, before we go into these first reactions, because I will say they are overwhelmingly positive. They are like, some of them are like, really hyping this up. So I'll lay the foundation there before we get into these first reactions. They are glowing reactions. However, I will also say, for me personally, I took merit out of first reactions a long time ago. The
Flash
Flash.
is the
Does
greatest
anyone
movie.
remember The
The
Flash?
Flash is the greatest comic book movie. Yes,
Those
every
first
time we
reactions, man. Those first reactions for The Flash
yes.
were phenomenal. Like and I am someone who actually came out liking The Flash. So I'm in the minority there. But those reactions were like, best comic book movie ever. This is fantastic. So as soon as that happened, a lot of my first reactions, and there was also some first reactions that were very positive for Joker Folia Do. We saw how that turned out. So, and also the Marvels had some pretty fantastic reactions, and then that wasn't really what the fan base wanted to. So I am going to say that these first reactions have me intrigued, but I'm not jumping up to the hype level of them, because first reactions, in my opinion, have kind of lost a lot of merit. Anyways, with all that said, let's get into these first reactions. This comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter. Here's what they had to say. They said, Gladiator 2 first reactions from the early screening call it a total spectacle with a pulsating pace. Gladiator 2 had its first screening on Friday night, and early reactions have already made their way to social media. The sequel to the 2000 film was screened at the Paramount Studios lot in Los Angeles, where media outlets and film critics got a first look at the movie starring Denzel Washington, Paul Mescal, and Pedro Pascal. Gladiator 2 director Ridley Scott, I guess it wasn't New York City Comic Con, I don't know where I got that from. Gladiator 2 director Ridley Scott sees Mescal playing a grown up Lucius Virius the second, a nephew to Emperor Commodus from the original film, played by Joaquin Phoenix. Lucius returns to Rome after being forced into slavery to battle not as a ruler but as a gladiator, out for revenge and power, and seeks to return the glory of Rome to its people. Anyways, with all that said, let's get into these first reactions. It says the full critic reviews for Gladiator 2 won't drop until closer to the film's release date, but read on for a sampling of the first reactions. Simon Thompson says Gladiator 2 serves up with the richest feast in the epic action set pieces and deliciously ribald treachery. I don't even know. Dovetailing, stylish with this guy knows some big words. This guy knows some big words. I think he's
Yeah.
saying it's awesome.
Yeah.
Saying Paul Mescal leads a solid stellar cast with aplomb. Denzel Washington, Joseph Quinn, and Fred Hechinger are a collective powerhouse. I forgot that Joseph Quinn was going to be in this one. He's having a bit of a rise to stardom, like coming off
Oh
of
yeah.
Stranger Things. He was just in A Quiet Place day one. I thought he was
He
great in that.
was
He's gonna be in Fantastic Four. This guy's really taking off. It's cool to see.
for sure.
Scott Manzel says Gladiator 2 is Ridley Scott's best film since The Martian, a big, bloody, and badass action spectacle that builds upon the legacy of the original. The film showcases beautiful set pieces and a lot of epic battles. Paul Mescal shines, and Denzel Washington chews up the scenery. Eric Anderson says Gladiator 2 is a true epic and Ridley Scott's best in years. Paul Mescal is a great action star without sacrificing his indie grit, a worthy heir to the throne. Denzel Washington eats every line and costume without ever overplaying. Griffin Schiller says Ridley Scott returns to the Coliseum to prove to the world that he's still got it. Absolutely buzzing after Gladiator 2, an epic Shakespearean tale of hope, futility, and power within a crumbling system. Denzel feasts. That keeps coming up. Feasts. Denzel eats. Denzel feasts. This guy's just having a full on meal in this movie.
Yeah.
Denzel feasts in a show-stopping, I can't say that word, performance. What a picture. German Lucier says Gladiator 2 doesn't quite rise to the greatness of the original, but it's a damn fine sequel with big stakes, a solid story, and excellent performances. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Most probably will too, but it's just slightly lacking emotionally. Everything is very easy and service. So that's our first kind of not over the moon excitement for this movie
Yes.
that we've heard is from a German here. Cine Movie TV says, dang, Gladiator 2 is pretty awesome. Paul Mescal, Denzel Washington, Pedro Pascal, Joseph Quinn, and Fred Hechinger shine. It's a worthy follow-up, and Ridley Scott captures the spirit of the original, but the sequel is its own thing. Matthew Cost says Gladiator 2 is what happens when Ridley Scott lets loose and finds heart in the action. A total spectacle with a pulsating pace. Can't wait to see this one again. Will Mavity says Gladiator 2 lacks the focus and emotional punch of the original, and Mescal is quite as captivating as the lead here as Crow was in the original. Oh, isn't quite, sorry, as captivating as the lead here as Crow was, but it's overflowing with memorable action, and it's got Denzel stealing the movie and soon to be one of his most iconic performances. We'll just read a couple more here. We've got Kenzie saying, Epic doesn't begin to describe Gladiator 2. This is the grandest of filmmaking by Ridley Scott. The theatrics, the blood, and the incredible performances make this one of the best films of the year. And we'll end here with Drew Taylor saying, Rest easy, Romans. Gladiator 2 is the kind of large-scale filmmaking excellence only Ridley Scott could curl. Everything about it just works. Big Maverick vibes in its ability to conjure the past while adding something new. Bold, muscular filmmaking from a legendary talent.
Muscular filmmaking. I like that.
So, safe to say people are liking it.
So
Safe to say.
I'll say
Yeah, go
what I
for it.
will say, there's a reason why I stopped doing my ride home reviews initially, because I would leave the theater and I would be on such a high from whatever it was.
Yeah,
Like if it was really bad, I would be on this high of just ripping it down, or this high of, oh, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Like I left Lisa Frankenstein and I was like, whoa, this is so edgy. This is so, and then after I get a while to think about it, I was like, "Oh, this is an okay movie. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't as revolutionary as I set myself, for it to
right.
be in my head." But yeah, that first one was, boy, they use, and those are the reviews that I scoff at. Like anytime
Right.
anybody uses extra words to like describe the movie, I'm like, all right, that movie is probably gonna be okay for
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with these first reactions too. For like, it's not that first reactions. When I say that they don't have much merit for me anymore, it's not that I'm saying that they're to be totally ignored or they're trash. Like sometimes first reactions do come out that do align with how the general audience does end up feeling about the movie, or at least how I feel about the movie. But you also have to remember that these people, they were on the Paramount lot. I'm sure Ridley Scott was there. I'm sure the cast was there. And I don't know, I kind of akin it to like when you go to like a friend's play and you know the person personally and you spend time with them afterwards. Oh yeah, the play was awesome. Like you were fantastic. Like how often were they really great? How often was the play really fantastic? Right?
me.
You just have that personal connection to it.
I have a high school friend who made him. He's made 2 movies, right? And they're good movies. Don't hey, internet, please don't rewind this if my friend sees this. They're good movies. But I remember interviewing for my podcast right after the second movie came out. Solid movie. It was tonally different. That's what I would say. So I had to frame my questions because you don't want to, like you said, you don't want to insult your friend
Yeah.
because like the movie subverted my expectations, and that's exactly what he wanted. So we got that out of the conversation. But it was a odd conversation. Like, man, you were going here when I thought you were going here.
Right.
Probably should have went here, but hey, that's your baby, right? So we had this really good conversation afterwards. But that's kind of like because I left the movie and I left the glowing, when I say glowing, reviews online, because that is my really good friend. And that's exactly your point. They're meeting all these actors and actresses. They get to meet their hero Ridley Scott, and you're at a premiere of this TV. You almost have to say something nice about it,
Right.
or you're not gonna get invited.
Yeah, that's the fear, right? That a couple of them have is to not be invited again. Your mic's kind of cutting in and out a little bit. I'll just let you know. To your, I'm losing some of the words you're saying just a little bit. I don't know if,
Okay. Oh,
yeah,
it was a computer thing. Something just crashed on my computer. I hope it's fixed now, though.
yeah, yeah. You sound
Can you
good.
hear me
It's
now?
just, yeah. I can hear
Okay,
you. It's
perfect.
just sometimes the words cut out for some reason. I'm not quite sure. But it sounds good now. It sounds good now. Yeah, no,
Okay.
but these I will say, like, it's nice to hear, like, these reactions are good, like, because one of the things about Napoleon was the action was good. Like, my concern with Gladiator 2 has never been the action or the scope or the scale, because Ridley Scott can do that seemingly in his sleep, at least how it appears when he makes a film. It's just the story. That's what has me a little bit worried, is the story, the characters, how, and there was a couple of reactions in there that did kind of feel a little bit more uh honest in some ways, with how they felt, of like, emotionally, I didn't connect to it as much, or I didn't care as much about the character as I did Crow's character in the first, which, like, that one's been out for 24 years and you've had
Yeah.
so much time to rewatch it over and over again and like the character. You only saw this guy once, so it could grow on you. What I will say though, like, with all this said, um, it does raise my excitement for Gladiator 2. Like, I've kind of gone from being like, "Oh, I'm optimistic about it. I'm cautious. Like, I'll see it for sure." But this kind of gets me to a point where I'm like, "Okay, it sounds like there's something to see here." And has this raised your excitement? Has this changed anything for you hearing these reactions?
No, I'm excited for the movie. I don't go into sequels, especially a legacy sequel, kind of like Top Gun Maverick. I don't go with those expectations. It's going to be as good as the first. Like
Yeah,
Gladiator, in some people's mind, is like, won an Oscar for Best Picture, which debate for another day. But it is held so high in a lot of circles as far as like modern movies. What is a modern cinematic classic? And yeah, like I just don't go in those movies expecting the same thing. So hopefully, I mean, like someone said, it doesn't reach the heights of the first one, but it's great in its own right. It's good in its own right, and that's what I'm looking for in a sequel.
yeah, yeah. I liked hearing that too, and I liked the one reaction that compared it to Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah,
That was an interesting comparison that I liked hearing. One thing that Ace is saying in the chat here is something that kept coming up was one of his most iconic performances. That's High Expectations right there. Of course, referring to Denzel Washington. Lot of love and appreciation for Denzel Washington. Apparently, he has quite the feast. He eats a lot in this movie. I'm pretty sure you've mentioned before that you're a big Denzel fan. Does that get you more excited to see what he's going to do in this movie?
yeah. Like anything he does now, I mean, it's kind of like you just. I just hope, like when they say he's chewing the scenes, I just hope he doesn't go into Al Pacino territory or Nero.
Right.
Like I hope he doesn't hit. I hope he's not hitting that phase of his career. No knock on those guys because they're working actors. Like don't hit that Liam Neeson just doing anything for a paycheck. Like please, Denzel, for my sake, please don't. I don't want to think of you that way. So it kind of makes me nervous when they say he's chewing the scenes because like that's just
Yeah.
never been his thing. Denzel's always been Denzel. Like whatever he's in, he's Denzel. Like he's a great actor. He won an Oscar for Training Day. That was the most non-Denzel character I think he's played. So I'm intrigued to see where he takes his character because I don't know anything historically about who he's playing. If
Right.
even a real person. I've heard it's a real person. So, however, whatever way he takes the character, I'm really intrigued to see that. But I don't want to see him hamming it up on screen. Like that's not the Denzel that I want to see on the movie screen.
Right, yeah. Well, hopefully, from these reactions, it sounds like he pulls it off, so hopefully we feel the same way.
Yeah.
Click Movie Man says, "I definitely could see Denzel Washington getting nominated for an Oscar for this movie." Hard to say when you haven't seen the movie yet. So, well, but, excuse me. So, it is possible, like, anything's possible at this point, um, until we
Yeah.
see the movie.
I've seen a lot of Oscar-worthy performances. That like a lot of people saying it's not a great year for movies, but there have been some great performances in some movies. I can say that
I
I've
agree.
seen. So it might be a tough field this year.
They've gotta nominate some people, so yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
there's definitely good performances that have been out this year. Some performances better than the movie itself.
Indeed.
Uh, Collect Movie Man also says, "Something I found out is Denzel Washington and the character he's playing in Gladiator 2 is an actual real person who becomes emperor later on during the Roman times." Well, there you go. That's kinda what you were saying, is he was playing a real person. So,
Yeah.
yeah, not much else to go on until we see the movie ourselves. But as far as people who have set their eyes on this thing, apparently we're in for a treat. So hopefully that pays off for us as well.
Hopefully, I think it will. I don't think it's gonna be terrible. I don't think it can be Napoleon terrible. Like you got to try. You,
Well,
like
Napoleon, for example, performance that in my opinion was way better than the movie.
yeah, yeah. I've
Yeah,
heard that from everybody. Everybody said
yeah,
Joaquin was great, but the movie just wasn't. It.
yeah. So we'll have to wait and see if that ends up being the same. Another thing we'll have to wait and see is about this Gollum movie. So we talked about this a little while back, if you remember. They announced David Zaslav over at Warner Brothers wants to do more with Lord of the Rings, but specifically, he wants to do more with the Peter Jackson version of Lord of the Rings. We're staying in that world, want to tell more stories. So they've come up with this idea for the Hunt for Gollum. And this is a movie that, before I get into my overall feelings of how we feel about this movie announcement, one thing that was being rumored for a little bit was that this was actually going to be split into two parts. They were going to be Hunt for Gollum Part 1, Hunt for Gollum Part 2, or whatever they were going to end up calling that, which right off the bat, I'll just lay it out there for you. I was like, seriously? Like
Yeah,
this already feels
yeah,
like a side story, a
yeah.
side like this could be happening in the background of the first Lord of the Rings movie. Like this, like we'll get into our thoughts, but one of the things that has come out from a pretty reliable source is it's not going to be two movies. It is indeed going to be just one. And this comes to us in the Dark Horizon saying Hunt for Gollum to be just one film. Turns out the new Lord of the Rings film won't be supersized after all. In early 2023, came the news that Warner Brothers Pictures and New Line were developing more live action movies based on the Lord of the Rings property. Then in May came the news that the first of these would be The Hunt for Gollum, which is aiming to release in 2026. Last month, Sir Ian McKellen was on a British chat show and said that he would be looking at the script in the new year before adding, "I'm told it's two films. I probably shouldn't be saying that, but I haven't read the script, so I don't know if it is." That led to speculation that the film was being split into two parts. In an interview with Empire, co-writer and longtime Rings producer Philippa Bowens confirmed that The Hunt for Gollum will only be one movie, but at least one other film is currently in development telling a different Rings story. This is their quote. "I can tell you definitely it isn't two films. That was a genuine misunderstanding that happened because we've begun to work conceptually on two different live action films. The first being The Hunt for Gollum, the second one still to be confirmed. We're playing around with a number of ideas, but most of those ideas do include Gandalf. So Gandalf would potentially return for two live action films. The Hunt for Gollum is expected to be set during the events of Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring. Again, a background story happening in the
Quest,
first film.
yes, side quest.
In time between Bilbo's birthday party and before the Fellowship enters the mines or Moria. Bowen says it's quite an intense story. It's a specific chunk of incredible untold story told through the perspective of this incredible creature. Lord of the Rings: The Hunt for Gollum will be released in 2026. Before that, we're getting the new animated Lord of the Rings, yada yada yada. We already know that. So, so there are a couple things here. Thank God, Hunt for Gollum is not going to be two parts. Um, And apparently we're getting another live action spin-off film, and both will involve Gandalf with Ian McKellen returning. So before we put that in, before we get to that side of the conversation, let's talk about this Gollum movie. Because T, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this Gollum movie. Are you interested in this Gollum movie? Because to me, like I was saying before, it feels like a little side quest, like maybe even like a part of a Lord of the Rings anthology episode where it's a 45-minute episode. We follow these characters trying to hunt Gollum. It takes place during Bilbo's birthday in the first film. Like we know what's gonna happen to Gollum. We know what happened. Like, are they going after the like? Do they want to go after him because they think he has the ring? We know he like what. This is a prequel project to me that feels like it has no stakes. It feels like it has nothing interesting to me personally. And this is also coming from someone who's not like the biggest Lord of the Rings fan. I enjoy the movies. I think they're one of the most impressive achievements in filmmaking history. But as far as a Hunt for Gollum movie, I could take it or leave it. I just hope it's going to be good at this point, and I'm very glad to hear it's one film. But T, what do you think of that? What do you think of the Hunt for Gollum project they're working on?
So if I've learned anything from this past year is to stop saying this is not, who's this made for? Like, because that's the first question is who's this made for, right? If it's made well, it'll do well, right? Like any property can actually be great if done well. If
Yeah,
not done well, then the question comes up, why did you make this movie? Why nobody's asking for another Gollum movie? Like they made a video game. I think the video came out last year. Like it was something Gollum. It might have been called The Hunt for Gollum. I can't remember. But that game flopped tremendously because of the thought that everyone who loves the Lord of the Rings property is gonna flock to see Gollum do anything. Andy Serkis, great. Love Andy Serkis. I'm a huge Andy Serkis fan, but
I'm pretty sure they confirmed that he's also coming back too.
he has to. Like you can't. Like he has to. He is synonymous with that character. So I mean, I'm not looking forward to it because I'm not a Lord of the Rings fan at all. So
Fair.
there are people who might be looking forward to this. Is Peter Jackson involved with this at all? Like,
I think only in like a producer role. I don't think
in
he's set to direct. I don't think he's set to do anything like that. I don't think they've announced a director, if I'm being
Yeah. So
honest.
then I really don't care now. Like if Peter Jackson said, I'm gonna come direct this because I feel like there's more story to be told, which I don't think he's gonna do at this point. I think he's like, I'll produce it. I'll get an executive producer credit because it is my world, but I mean it's gonna come and
Yeah.
go. I think this is gonna be a very forgettable movie, honestly. I don't think like you
It
said,
does
there's no
kind of have that feel, right? Of like,
yeah.
what can we do with like Lord of the Rings is so popular. People love those Peter Jackson movies. What can we do? Oh, they loved Gollum. Can we do more? Like, can we center a whole film around Gollum? And it's like, yeah, it comes across as like desperate executives
Oh yeah, for sure.
having
Passion,
having a
passion.
water cooler conversations of what they can
How
do.
much how much money did the Lord of the Rings make? Oh, let's get some of that. Like The Hobbit,
Exactly.
'cause The Hobbit and those movies made a lot of money too. So, but if you don't have Peter Jackson's name, like he has to really spin this movie for people to get interested because I think it's his world. Like
Yeah.
people are more invested in the fact that he has something to do with The Hobbit and all of those movies because he took vested interest in everybody. He's a proven commodity. If somebody else comes and does that, I don't know if it's gonna work.
Yeah. Well, Collective Movie Man is saying that he heard that Andy Serkis is directing the Gollum movie, so he could be correct about that. I can't remember if I've heard that or not, but if he's saying that, I believe it. And Ace is saying it feels like a cash grab to me,
For
which
sure.
that's hard to argue with. But let's bring in another voice into this conversation because we got Ryan Lane from Movie Reviews with Ryan Lane also joining us. Hey, man.
Hey Zach, how's it going? Hey T.
Hey,
How's
how
it
you
going,
doing,
man?
man?
I'm doing all right. Just posted my review of Terrifier 3 a little while ago, so pretty
Nice.
happy about that.
On that note, Ryan, tell people where they can find you before we get into this conversation with you.
You can find me on YouTube and Letterboxd at Movie Reviews with Ryan Lane. I just had my 3-year anniversary about this October 10th.
Nice. Congratulations, man. That's very
Yeah,
exciting.
thank you.
So we're talking about the Hunt for Gollum movie. Have you heard about we talked about this project a little while back. I can't remember if you were with us when we talked to. I'm pretty sure you were.
Yeah,
I'm
I
pretty
think
sure
I
you were.
was.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this Hunt for Gollum project that they got going on?
Well, can't be any worse than the Gollum video game.
That's what he was just saying.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we're in an interesting time now because I feel like we're 2020 is a weird demarcation between Hollywood when sequels were just guaranteed money printing machines. They printed more money than the US Treasury. And now it's like everything, like, from Aquaman to the Joker to, which I really did like, by the way, but just
I
so
saw your
many.
review. Very,
Yeah,
very
the
well spoken.
Marvels, like so many, big budget tentpole blockbuster movies are just bombing harder than Hindenburg. It's so and now there's going to be a Top Gun 3, so it's like
Oh yeah, that's a whole
yeah.
other discussion that we can have one day. But another thing that we just read, I don't know if how much of the article that you caught, Ryan, but they announced that Hunt for Gollum is going to be just one film, but they are working on another live action spinoff, and apparently both of these films, Gollum and whatever they're working on next, is supposed to include Gandalf. We're supposed to get more Gandalf. Is that something that entices you as a fan of Lord of the Rings? Do you want to see more Gandalf in prequel series and projects?
Yeah, he's a fun character, quotable dialogue, and if Ian McKellen's still up for it, I mean, he's Clint Eastwood levels of up there now at this point.
According to Collective Movie Man, Ian McKellen is 89.
Yeah, yeah.
To
Like
me,
I said, Clint Eastwood levels of up there. It's insurance is hard to come by when you get to that age on a Hollywood set.
the funniest part of this whole thing is the fact that he went on a talk show and was like, he got 2 scripts for 2 totally different movies, and like, oh, I'm thinking 2 movies. That makes me laugh. That's how old he is. I hate that because I'm older than everyone here, and as you get older, people kind of make fun of you because but you're not helping your case there, sir, Ian McKellen. Going out there.
That's very,
Yeah.
very true. Yeah, that is something to consider though. He's 89 and they want to shoot 2 of these. Like the role of Gandalf, at least in the past for him, that's required a lot of physicality. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. We're gonna get some CGI doubles of Gandalf flying
Yeah, it's
around.
gonna be. He's just gonna voice the person, and it's gonna be a different person.
He's gonna Madam Web it.
It's literally the do
exactly.
it till he's 90 meme.
Literally, yeah. That's crazy. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know what this next project's gonna be. But as far as Gollum goes, Ryan, they confirmed that's gonna be just one film, not 2 parts. Does that make you happier? Do you feel like it should have been 2 parts, or were you hoping it was gonna be one?
I mean, yeah, just one part. I mean, because again, Hollywood they're not known for many things. One of which is learning their lesson, but they seem to have learned their lesson from we could split a tiny little book into 2+ hour movies. They're like, okay,
Right.
all right. We worked that out of our system. We're now on to video game movies now.
Well, that's the thing about this project is that it's not even a book. It's nothing. It's just, hey, when can we set this? What was a period of time? Oh, well, Bilbo had a birthday once, and there's a period of time there where people could have been hunting Gollum before they ran into Gollum. Okay, it's set during Bilbo's birthday.
I will say this, for all this poking fun of Lord of the Rings, there is one project I'm really excited for. It's an anime film, actually. I saw a trailer for it during when I saw the new My Hero Academia movie. Looks really good. The English dub is fantastic.
Is that the War of Rodenham or whatever it's called?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that comes
out this December, I think, right?
Yep.
I think that trailer is such like a deceptive tease at the beginning because it shows the live action stuff from the movies and it's like from Peter Jackson, let's go back into Middle Earth in animation. It's like,
Yeah.
oh,
I thought it was going to
okay.
be like a re-release type teaser, but then it was like anime. It's like, okay, all right, yeah, sure, all right, I'm down for that.
The animation looks really good and stuff, but like honestly, I was when I watched the trailer and I'm like, if this wasn't Lord of the Rings, I would not be interested in this, like in the slightest. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
It I don't know. It doesn't seem like it, I don't know. Anyways, that's a whole other topic. If for Hunt of Gollum though, like if they were going back like a long time ago, like maybe like right after Gollum transitioned, or became Gollum, if they were doing something like way back then, right? Doing something, but like the setting of like having it have to be during Fellowship of the Ring, which they're probably gonna try and get a de-aged Frodo like can't well actually honestly you don't really have to de-age the guy, he looks pretty much the same, but they're probably going to try and get some kind of cameo, some kind of thing thrown in there with Frodo, and it just everything about it just feels like a gimmick to me, and I don't know, I can't get on board with this one. Do you guys feel differently, T?
I mean, well, I'll wait and see. Like I'm getting out of the business of just bashing things before I see what it's gonna be, because
Right,
you never know. It could be a great story. I
it
don't
could
think
be,
it will be
yeah.
a great story, but it could definitely be a great story. That's something that we've never seen before. But I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not excited for it. Like I said, I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings fan, so I'm not gonna be beating down the doors to get to the theater to see this. But I mean, it has
Yeah.
potential.
And we all here reserve the right to change our minds because
Yeah.
like I'm literally, this is just me reacting to what I'm hearing as if someone was coming up to me and saying, "Hey, I have this idea. Do you think it's a good or bad idea?" For me personally, you're telling me all these things, I'm reading these words. I think it's a bad idea. Maybe not necessarily a bad idea, but I'm definitely not someone who is going to buy into this idea. I'm not going to invest with you at this moment.
Yeah.
But if you put a piece of marketing together, if they put out a killer trailer for this thing, I could easily change my tune. Look at Transformers 1. That thing could have been left alone in a gutter somewhere for the end of time, and I would never bat an eye. But I ended up really enjoying that movie when I finally saw it. But when they presented it to me at first, I said, doesn't really look interesting to me, not really into it. But Ryan, how about you? Do you think that there is merit here, something that has you hooked, that you're excited to see from this based on what you're hearing, or do you just want to wait until we get a piece of marketing to make more of your mind up?
Yeah, I'll wait till I see it. Again, I'm a fan of the movies, and I did read The Hobbit, and I read Fellowship of the Ring, and I tried to read The Two Towers, but I couldn't get through it. It's just walking. That's all The Two Towers is. It's just walking for several pages. It gets old after a while.
Yeah. Well, that one thing that Collect Movement saying in here too is I don't think I would watch a movie without Ian McKellen because he's iconic as Gandalf. You could recast, like there are other actors you could do, and that's another thing of like moving it so far away from anything Peter Jackson Lord of the Ring time period. You could recast a younger Gandalf, you could do something different, but like they're kind of pigeonholing themselves by having it in Fellowship of the
Yeah.
Ring, where it's like they have to look the same, they have to be the same characters, you have to have Ian McKellen come back. So yeah, it's an interesting take of what they're trying to do more with this world. I do like the Gollum character. We'll see where it goes. But for now, buy or sell, guys. Do we buy or sell the Hunt for Gollum?
Yeah,
I'm
well,
selling it for now.
I'm in the
On the
middle.
fence.
I'm
Yeah,
on.
that's fair. That's fair. There's nothing about this project to me that I'm like, I can see where they're coming from besides the money,
Money. Yeah, it's definitely money.
money.
All right, guys, let's move on to this. Because obviously one of the biggest movies of the year, Dune Part 2, which totally kind of flipped me on how I felt about Dune, because I watched the first one, thought it was fine. beautiful film. Like, oh my gosh, the cinematography and everything, the set designs and all that, fantastic. But wasn't really that emotionally connected to the characters or the story. But Dune Part 2 really changed that for me. I love this film. It's one of, if not my favorite movie of the entire year. And it also did a really good job at the box office. It became a pretty cultural moment in this year. So there's really no surprise that we're going to be getting a third one. But Denis Villeneuve has said in the past that he wants to take a little break. He wants to take a little break between part 2 and part 3. He wants to focus on some other things and then come back to part 3. It sounds like, though, he's changed his tune on that. And I'm sure Warner Brothers had a hand in that. But because we've got a headline here on Dark Horizon saying Denis Villeneuve is moving quicker on Dune 3. Filmmaker Denis Villeneuve has hinted that his post-Dune Part 2 holiday is over. That was short. And he's going to get back to work on the third installment in the franchise quicker than expected. Speaking with Deadline, he says, these movies take a lot of time to be made, so it's best not to say out loud when I might shoot. But then goes on to explain he's had the break he needed and wants to get back to work. Let's say that I thought after part 2 that I will take a break, that I will go back in the woods and stay in the woods for a while to recover. But the words weren't really suiting me, and I would go back behind the camera faster than I think, but that's all I can say. He adds that he's in the writing zone right now. The filmmaker won't be calling it Dune Part 3, insisting the first 2 are, for me, like one entity. It's a movie made in 2 parts. It's finished. It's done. Which is a very interesting very, very interesting thing to say, because to me it doesn't feel like they're done. Especially the end of part 2. It didn't it very much felt like a cliffhanger to me. It felt like, oh, okay, I'm waiting for Return of the Jedi. This was Empire Strikes Back. Now I'm waiting for Return of the Jedi. There's definitely more connective story here. Now I also haven't read the books, so maybe there is like a big tonal difference between, what's it called, the Messiah,
Dune Messiah.
Dune Messiah. Maybe there's a big difference. Ryan could probably tell me more about that because I see Dune books behind him.
Yeah.
But to me, this makes sense because you got to ride that momentum. Like Dune Part 2 was huge, and people loved it, and it became this moment, and it's some of people's, including myself, like favorite movie of the entire year. You ride that momentum, you ride that wave of excitement. You got to get part 3 going. You got to get it out. But I'll go to you first, Ryan, because you got the Dune books. You are obviously the Dune fanatic of the three of us. How do you feel about this with Denis Villeneuve saying, "Hey, you know what? Forget about that break. I'm working on Dune Part 3 right now."
Well, I'm really excited for Dune Messiah, and I'm interested to see how he adapts it, because again, the way the original Dune novel ends versus how Dune Part 2 ends, there are some significant differences. And so but I am really excited for Dune Messiah, because Dune Messiah, without spoiling too much, it brings back a certain character, and there are some really interesting plot developments to be had in Dune Messiah. And I don't know, personally, if it were up to me, again, this is pure wish fantasy, I would adapt all 6 books. But even I will admit, the books past Dune Messiah, they do get exceptionally cerebral, even by the standards of Dune.
That's hard to believe. It was already so cerebral. Yeah, but what do you think also, Ryan, of the comments here that Dune Part 1 and Part 2, that's one entity, it's done, and now Part 3 is going to be like its own thing? Like, as a reader of the books, does that sound in line with how you view them?
Yeah. Well, Dune Part 1, Part 2, they tell roughly, about 2 halves of the same book. Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, when I saw Dune Part 2 and I saw how it ending, again, a few slight changes notwithstanding, it felt like a complete story. It felt like, the downfall or uprising of, depending on how you look at it, of Paul Atreides. Because
Right.
again, at the end, he failed to, he's caught between trying to save the Fremen versus, triggering, an intergalactic genocide, essentially. And well, I mean, at that point, it's like, well, I guess we're doing genocide. All right, come on, boys.
Yeah, that's fair. T, how about you? If I remember correctly, you weren't super high on Dune Part 2, like a lot of people were. If I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong. But how do you feel about Denis Villeneuve cutting his break short, and he's working on Dune Part 3 quicker than we thought. He's already in the writing zone, apparently.
So I was pretty high on Doom too.
You
I think
were? Okay.
number 4 on my list, 3 or 4 of the movies this year. I enjoyed it so much more than I enjoyed the first Dune. I was not a huge fan of the first film. But my biggest takeaway on this and moving forward faster is there's supposed to be a time jump, supposed to be a 12-year time jump.
Mhm.
Anna Taylor-Joy is supposed to play his younger sister in the movie.
I forgot about that. That's right.
They look the exact same. Like Timothy Chalamet looks like a man child. Like he looks like a boy. Like he's growing. Like
Right.
he looks older now. Like but like in 2 or 3 years, he's gonna like they're gonna look the same age. Zendaya is gonna look younger than Anna Taylor-Joy when the movie.
She's gonna look young forever, though. Like
Yeah,
she
yes.
still looks like a teenager.
Yes, they all look like teenagers, and we're supposed to get into that era. And I haven't read the books, but I've heard like people I've watched, recaps and all these spoiler talks about Doom Messiah. I don't think this is going to be the movie that people want it to be, like because that was one of my biggest issues with Dune 2 was like that swift change of character in Paul Atreides. Like I felt like it was very abrupt in the movie, where it wasn't like it just happened once he drank, I can't remember what it's called, but whenever he drank what he drank, he just turned into a totally different person. And like,
Right.
I feel like we didn't get enough time to adjust to him turning into a different person. Like it just happened, and the next thing you know, it's fights, and we're at the end of the movie. We had Javier Bardem just milking it all up, like which.
Lisa Nakaib.
Yes, exactly.
That's
like
part of the movie.
Yes,
He is the Messiah.
I love him so much. I loved him in the movie, but I think Doom Messiah, we're gonna see. It's gonna be a whole movie of that other side, and I don't think people are gonna want to see that from
Right.
Timothy Chalamet, the poet, Willy Wonka. Like they don't. They came to see this. Their hero, and so I'm just really interested how they're gonna do the time jump. If like, are we just playing by different rules where everybody just stays looking young for 30 or 40 years? I don't know.
Right.
I would love to see this.
Well, I mean, again, there are the life-giving properties of the Dune spice, so there's that, and I mean prosthetics and makeup. I mean, again, these films have money in the millions of dollars, and I mean, I'm sure they could spare a little bit of chunk change to age up Timothy Chalamet a little bit.
Look, after seeing what they've done with Colin Farrell in the Penguin, I can't believe that there's anything makeup can't do.
That'll be great if he does the whole that I'm sold. If they do that and he looks and just feels like a totally different human underneath the prosthetics, and he's just this grizzled veteran Paul Atreides, I would be there for that. Like that sounds exciting to me.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think they'd go this way, but it's also a possibility. If he's saying that part 1 and part 2 are an entity, they're done, it's finished, there is always a possibility of recasting. If you want to make it feel like a big time jump, if you want to make it feel like a big time jump, you could get a different actor in there. I'm not saying that's what they're going to do. In fact, I would say 99% that's not what they're going to do. I don't believe that's what they're going to do. I'm just saying there is workarounds if you wanted to do a more authentic time jump in the third one.
They could cast Oscar Isaac Oscar Isaac to come back and play the aged Paul Atreides.
That would be funny. Just get him with prosthetics.
Well, oh yeah. Okay, I was like, but then he play the dad, and I was like, okay, that actually.
But let's be honest,
without the beard,
Let's be honest, though. If they're going to recast, it's going to be Pedro Pascal, right? Because like,
it
has to be nowadays.
Definitely Pedro Pascal.
Hey, he's doing Corona ads. He's the Hollywood it boy at the moment.
That would be, oh my god, that would make me laugh so hard. I would get so much joy out of that recast. The world will melt. Everybody, like the internet, will have a meltdown. But
it
would so much joy out of that.
Yeah, no, like I said, I don't think they're gonna recast. I highly doubt that would even be in their minds, but it is a possibility. But I do think, like, with Denis Villeneuve, he's done a good job adapting these two books as they were into films. I've heard that too, where it's like the third film kind of controversial amongst fans, not the most beloved, everything after Dune Messiah, but it's adaptation, right? And Denis Villeneuve, he knows how to adapt. I'm sure that he will continue his story through adaptation while picking the best parts of Dune Messiah that fit, but it won't be, I don't think, a complete apples to apples translation of the book. I think there's gonna be a lot of changes and differences, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does. And I like that he's working on it quicker than expected, because you want to get that going. Like, you gotta run off that momentum that you've got off of Dune Part 2. Like, right now, people are itching to see a Dune Part 3. You don't want to wait too long. You definitely don't want to wait 17 years.
Doom
Yeah,
Messiah
don't want
is
to do
gonna
Blade
come out.
Runner 2049.
Right.
Doom Messiah is gonna come out before Into the Spider-Verse Part 2 comes out.
I
Those
don't
poor,
know if
poor
I'd go that far.
animators.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that mush. Like, they're working on it. They're getting it done. Yeah, no, those poor anime. That's a whole other conversation as well.
Do you want me replaced by AI?
Collective Movie Man says, I actually read the Doom Messiah this year. There was definitely a difference.
Nice.
So that's good to know. Ace says both will come out before Blade.
Yes. Yes. That is for certain. And both of them will come out.
Yes. Look, they're further along in the process for Doom Part 3 than it sounds like they are with Blade. Oh man. Okay, we're almost out of time here, guys, but let's talk about this, because Sony Pictures has released the first poster for, I still can't believe how fast they announced, produced, and shot this movie, Karate Kid, which is now called Karate Kid Legends, with Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio coming back to the role. And so let's just get it up here. This is the poster. Says legends are forever. Jackie Chan, Ben Wong, who I believe is the newcomer that they found to be the Karate Kid, and Ralph Macchio star in Karate Kid Legends, exclusively in movie theaters May 30th, 2025. Now, we still don't really know much about this movie. This movie is, I don't know. Are you guys watching Cobra Kai?
I'm checking.
No, I've never seen a single episode.
Okay, I'm very curious to see, because right now there's a storyline going on in Cobra Kai Part 1 where they've kind of retroactively changed some of what we know about Mr. Miyagi, which, I'm gonna be honest, I'm very on the fence of the show doing. It's not like ruining the character or anything. It's not tarnishing his like, character from the first film. It's just showing a different angle and side to the Miyagi character that wasn't really there in the first couple movies. And I'm wondering if this movie is going to play off of where they're going with that. Granted, Part 2 and Part 3 of Cobra Kai aren't out yet, so they could wrap up that storyline. But the biggest thing that I'm very interested about this movie is because Ralph Macchio is in Cobra Kai. So if you want to keep that, which it's been canon the entire time, you've got to acknowledge stuff that's going on in Cobra Kai. I have no idea how he's going to run into Jackie Chan. I have no idea how this kid is involved. Like, is he going to pop up in the season finale of Cobra Kai? Is it going to be some connection there? I don't think it's as hard to get these Ralph Macchio and Jackie Chan together as people think, because you could just retroactively make the remake now a spin-off in the same universe. There's in such different time periods and so countries apart that it's not that big of a stretch to say that Jackie Chan's character just existed in Ralph Macchio's franchise the entire time. But all of that aside, I love this poster. I really love this poster. I think this poster kind of harkens back to the posters of the original Karate Kid trilogy. I like the colors. The colors are very consistent with the first Karate Kid posters. And the kids front and center, you got the masters in the back there. I'm so, like, this isn't my most anticipated movie of next year, but it is my most, like, curious. Like, I have no idea what this is, and I'm very curious to see it, come out. But T, how do you feel about Karate Kid Legends? I mean, you probably grew up with the Karate Kid movies, so I mean, you're not watching Cobra Kai, but does it excite you to see Ralph Macchio back? Jackie Chan, did you like the remake that they did in 2010 with Jaden Smith? Like, how do you feel about this project? And it really came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I don't understand the necessity for it with Ralph Macchio coming in. Like the Karate Kid with Jaden Smith, I thought was fine. Like totally different. It was kung fu. They weren't doing karate, uh, but it's its own thing. I think with Cobra Kai, I don't think you ever need to mash up the two because one, Jackie Chan would totally wash Danny LaRusso like he
Oh
would
yeah.
like it just not even fair. I don't understand how he plays in that world because then again, Cobra Kai, there's some really good fights in there. The high school fight is probably one of my
Oh, at the
favorite
end of
things that
season
I think I've
2?
ever watched. Yes.
Yeah, man,
After
that
that,
was the highlight.
yes. After that, it kind of went down. It's just a bunch of it's kind of like Power Rangers without the suits. They just go around beating people up all the time. Like it just,
Kind of, yeah.
was just a good time. You know, I just I don't necessarily want to see this. This is not anticipated for me. I'm gonna go see it because I'm intrigued how they're gonna, tie all the stories together. But um, it's a movie. Ralph Macchio is not the star that we want him to be. Like, so him being attached to this is like I'm less anticipated about that, more anticipated about seeing Jackie Chan doing something new and innovative, and I like to see where the story goes. I mean, it's a kid who gets beat up and learns karate or kung fu and beats the person up at the end.
Yeah, it's just so interesting to me because you can't really negate Cobra Kai. It's so popular. It's like a cultural phenomenon in some ways, especially for the Karate Kid fans, that it's like, okay, we know Ralph Macchio's Daniel LaRusso owns a car dealership. He has a wife. He has a family. He's very well off. Like he already is training karate with Johnny. Like, how does he get involved with Jackie Chan's character? And where's his family gonna be? Why does he leave his family? Like it's so
I
weird.
just came. What if the Cobra Kai kids are the bullies that this kid has to fight? Because that's what they are. They're all bullies. They all just go around beating people up all day. Like they literally walk into an establishment and get into karate fights with people all the time.
So
It's
true. In the
insane.
mall. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where they are. They just
It's the American way.
Yeah, they just go to places, get into fights, never get arrested. Nothing ever happens to them. They just leave. Like they just beat somebody up and just leave. Like, what if they're the bullies? Jackie.
Wow, they really are the Power Rangers.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
are.
they are. They are. It's a way to go. It's a way to go. I just like Jackie. Does he move to the States? Does Daniel LaRusso move away to like China? Or, like, why would he go to China? Like, there's so many questions. But Ryan, as someone who's not watching Cobra Kai, are you a fan of the Karate Kid movies? Does this entice you in any way of going back into that world, at least on the big screen?
I mean, again, I think it's sort of like you said. I'm curious. Again, I've only ever seen the original Karate Kid and the Karate Kid remake, both of which I enjoyed. I thought they were nice. I liked them. I mean, they're not like a big part of my childhood or integral part of my personality or anything. I just like them, and I don't know, I'm interested. I mean, because like Jackie Chan, like in recent years, I mean, he's slowed down his output. Because again, I mean, even for Jackie Chan, you can't fight time. And so, because I think this will be like his first, like English, American production movie since The Foreigner in like 2018 that he did with Pierce Brosnan.
That was underrated. The Foreigner was
Good
so
movie.
good. I loved that
Yeah.
movie.
I watched that.
So yeah, I'm interested because again, for the past few years, for better or worse, he's been involved with a lot more Chinese productions.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see him, come back to familiar American territory for us.
Which again begs the question: like, is this taking place in China? Is this going to like? Yeah, it's so interesting. Like, I almost feel like you need it to take place maybe in China just to dissociate it from Cobra Kai. Because if he comes into like Daniel LaRusso's territory, you got to have the same house, the same wife, the same kids. You got like, where's Johnny? Like, what's going on? Like, if you remove it and you set it in China and you move Daniel LaRusso to China, you don't have to worry about all the Cobra Kai stuff and connections there. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with this thing.
I do have a question. Was Jackie Chan playing Mr. Miyagi in the new?
No.
No,
No, Mr. Han was his
completely
name.
different
Okay,
character.
got it. Okay, just making sure.
See, that's another thing that saves this from having to be a stupid multiverse thing. Is he's not Miyagi? They didn't recast. Jaden Smith was not Danny LaRusso.
Yeah.
He was Dre, I think was his name. It was Mr. Han and Dre. So yeah, it's totally its own thing, and you could easily work this into the same universe as Daniel LaRusso. Sure. But as far as the poster goes, as far as this whole Karate Kid movie goes, do we buy or sell? I really like the poster, and I'm very intrigued. So I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna go see it. So
yeah, there you go. 3 buys all the way around. We've got Ace is saying, don't forget about the breaking and entering and how people have felonies can just travel internationally with no issues. Okay, I'm gonna spoil something for you guys because you said that you fell off, and Ryan, you said that you don't watch it. This is the jump in of all the things they've done. This is the jump in the shark thing for me. So at the end of season 5, or during season 5, they brought back the villain from Karate Kid 3. I can't remember. Terry Silver.
Yep.
Terry Silver frames Johnny's old man. Oh, what's his Kreese? Okay,
Kreese.
Terry Silver frames Kreese for assault, basically, and Kreese gets put in prison, and he's in prison the entire season 5. At the end of season 5, he fakes a shank in the cafeteria. He gets okay. They put him into the infirmary, right? They have the cloth, like they think he's dead. They have the cloth over him. Turns out it was red Jello. So he busts out of there, like at the end of Terrifier, when the clown wakes up. Like he he busts out of there, escapes prison by stealing one of the security cards, and then after all this, and they're looking for Kreese. Like they make it known they're looking for Kreese. He walks around town. He talks to some of the other kids,
threatens people. Yeah,
but then in season 6. He takes a flight to Korea to meet up with people that he knows. And he busted out of prison. They're looking for him. And he just hopped on a flight.
Because he was special forces, man. He has connections. Like that's Karate Kid. Cobra Kai logic is hilarious.
It's like, so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. But that's exactly what.
Hey, if Madam Web can do it. You know?
Exactly.
Oh gosh, if you're taking your playbook from Madam Web, if you're taking your story plots from Madam Web, that may not be the best way to go.
Man.
Collective Movement saying, I wonder if we're still getting a Rush Hour 4 because I keep hearing. Oh, they've been talking about that for
please
years.
No. Let's let that one go. Like, please no. I don't want to see a 50-year-old Chris Tucker and a 80-year-old Jackie Chan. Like.
Yeah, they're getting up there in age for sure. And the Ace says, and keep in mind the fight tournament that he's participating in is an international televised event.
Bro, like Cobra Kai logic, man. It's hilarious.
It's
like
so
I stopped because I watched up to season 5. I watched the first episode of season 6, and I was just like, I just didn't have time to catch up, and other things just happened. I'm gonna get around to it, but I've heard the shenanigans of the Sakai, like it's like, come on,
it's so ridiculous. And yeah, season 6 is okay. It's not like I'm still enjoying it, but it's definitely the weakest. I do kind of wish they had ended at 5 because 5 just kind of felt like the ending point. But anyways, another topic for another day. That's the show, guys. That is Members Talk Live for today. So thank you guys so much for joining us for this discussions, and thank you to T and Ryan for joining and being members. Once again, T, just remind them where they can find you.
You can find me at the Have You Seen That With T YouTube channel. There it is right there. That wonderful mug and those terrible thumbnails.
Come on, man.
I should be getting my Smile 2 review out either today or tomorrow. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
Perfect. And Ryan.
You can find me on Movie Reviews with Ryan Lane on YouTube. You can see that's me right there with the big old thumbs up. And you can also find me on Letterboxd at Movie Reviews with Ryan Lane.
Perfect. And I'm right here, guys. You can just smash that subscribe button and you'll find me all the time. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.